Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the virtual version of Mission Dharma. As I've said many times, this is the best we have. We're very fortunate to be able to see each other. That's a subtle request for your videos, at least for the beginning, preferably throughout, just to help reinforce that sense that we're together. That not only do we receive from being together, but we also offer by being together. We offer our presence. So consider your presence tonight a gift to this community. This gift of community goes back thousands of years, I'm sure in many different traditions, but the foundations of the Buddha's teaching came out of the Hindu world, and in the Hindu world there was a concept called satsang. We call it sangha, called it satsang. Satsang, the word sat is truth, sangha is community. The view was, and the experience was, that when people gathered for the pursuit of truth, not an idea of truth, but a direct experience of truth, the immediacy of truth, when people gathered together for that purpose, that has a uplifting, a liberating impact. It actually changes our consciousness. It helps us come out of the tangle of our own self-isolation and preoccupation, and allows us, as I think it was Rumi who said, "Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? Come out of the tangle of fear thinking, of me thinking. Live in silence. Flow down and down and down in ever widening rings of being." So there's something widening about coming out of the tangle of our isolation. And we can even do that virtually online. So thanks for the gift of your presence, for the lifting power of your presence. And now, because you likely came to be alone together, not just alone, but alone together, which is the secret sauce of a meditation evening, acknowledging your presence by feeling free to first and foremost to say hello. Feel free to unmute, say where you're calling in from, so we can feel like our space is wider even in that understanding of where we're calling from.
Hello out there.
Hi.
Hello, Jim.
Hello from
Hi.
Vancouver.
Hello in there.
Hello.
Hello, this is Jim calling in from Palm Springs area.
Hello from Burlingame.
Welcome, everyone.
Hi from Regina in the Midwest.
Hello, you
Hello
little
from San
tiny heads.
Francisco.
Hi from Maryland.
Humboldt County, USA.
So good to see you all. Thank you. I'm Mark from
San Antonio,
Francisco.
Texas. John.
Texas, Canada, Palm Springs,
Hello,
San Francisco,
Diana from Edmonton, Alberta.
Diana from Edmonton. And I am calling in from Tucson, Arizona presently, but I will be home in the San Francisco Bay Area tomorrow. Anyway, wonderful to be with you. Now is the wonderful opportunity, as is true each week when we practice together, to forget whatever has happened before. You have full permission to forget the past. There's so much you could be thinking about, but for this time, this is a helpful retreat forget the past, and maybe more important, forget the future. And then even forget the idea of present. And just experience the sitting body. And then even forget the idea of the sitting body and just feel the living quality of sensation, vibration, aliveness. And just to enliven that a little bit more, you may want to close your eyes gently so that the body image disappears and you can come closer to that felt sense. And while you're in the neighborhood of feeling the felt sense, just notice how just the stepping into immediate and direct experience, there is a quieting. We're not flapping our arms so much. We're not trying to figure anything out, fix, problem solve. We're just connecting with the living Dharma, truth, the way it is. Tata, suchness. We rely on the unconditional, uncaused awareness, consciousness through which we're perceiving. We notice how effortlessly the sensations are known in awareness. And how the body sensations begin to settle and actually make more obvious the waves of sensation that come with each breath, with no effort to breathe. Just bearing witness, noticing the body's experience of its own breathing. Taking delight in that intimate experience of the body breathing in and the body breathing out. Taking delight in the comprehension that the breath is sometimes long, sometimes short, sometimes rough, sometimes smooth. Just knowing the way it is without interference, without manipulation. Even with the body's breath, we can realize the whole Dharma. The body breathes itself, it's selfless. It's not an egoic experience, it's just nature. Letting the body breath, whatever its characteristics, letting it call us to a calm abiding. To an increasingly pleasant dwelling in this very moment, in this very life, independent of circumstances. Peace is possible. Calm is possible. letting the breath be a support to remaining lucidly aware, clearly comprehending each moment. But also welcoming other experiences that become stronger than the breath, sounds, other sensations, moods, thoughts, images, stories, desires, frustrations, worries. We notice them all appearing and disappearing selflessly in this flow of nature, this flow of experience. No need to look for any experience, but when they arise and move to the foreground of our awareness, we welcome them. And we say yes to each experience, the scattered mind when it's known, the clear mind, the soft heart, the hard heart. Everything welcomed in this impartial, sky-like nature of our awareness. In the meantime, we settle back into the direct experience of these sensations, this breath. Not trying to do anything or undo anything. Just receiving with interest the presently arising breath or predominant experience. A soft mind, yet alert, gentle attention, yet precise. Intimately feeling the presently arising breath. Each time you realize you've been dreaming, lost in thought, planning or remembering, appreciate that moment of mindfulness arising, knowing where your mind has been. Appreciate that as a return to here, immediate, direct experience. So sense that you're now aware and support that awareness with a felt experience of your body, breath. Continue to notice whatever presents itself in this open field of awareness. Everything welcome. And you accept the state of your mind and body. Because in this meditation, whatever you're experiencing is the right experience. Mostly because you're noticing it. If you're not able to notice, falling into dullness, frustration, feel free to refresh yourself. Balance the quality of your attention. Begin again. Every moment's a new beginning. Aware, knowing what's being known, knowing what you're aware of. Noticing what happens to whatever it is that's presenting itself. In this way, we realize the Dharma, the way it is, just this moment. in the last minute of our practice. Let your body and mind bathe in the peace of being aware. Awareness is non-judgmental, has no agenda. It's not trying to fix, it's just aware, accepting. So let your body and mind just bathe in that openness, as though it's being enveloped in loving kindness. Of being seen non-judgmentally. Great pleasure to sit with you. Sorry about the shuffling papers. Now that you're suspending your effort for a few minutes, just notice the fragrance of just being aware, the feeling of being aware, the fragrance of having bathed in moment to moment attention. Perhaps you will notice that there's more room, perhaps a little less tight, a little less worried, a little more content, not because we did anything other than showed up. Let ourselves bathe in non-judgmental awareness, which is what's natural to us. We are aware. It is, as I've said so many times, it is the wish-fulfilling jewel or wish-fulfilling gem, this ever-present, unconditional wakefulness, consciousness. We tend to be so fixated on what we're aware of, knowing about ourselves. This is a practice of knowing ourselves directly. Again, not the idea of ourselves, but just being aware. Too simple for our complicated minds, but very. But once we practice a little bit, that sense of being aware moves to the foreground. Wow, it's okay. The world hasn't changed at all while we were sitting, but peace has been made possible. And as I keep saying week after week, The world, and I stole this from Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, the world needs, um, this is a editorial, the world needs peaceful people. It says the world is the way it is because people are the way they are. As long as people are the way they are, the world will continue to be the way it is, just a painful movie of greed and hatred and delusion. If we want a peaceful world, we have to have peaceful people. It's not something we can impose on this world. It has to start and be sustained by each person in our own way. Some will take up arms, and some will out of love, and some will sit quietly. But at least it seems like we really need to be guided by this, by peace, and by the capacity that each of us has to make peace and to be peace. It starts within our own hearts and minds. Any questions this evening about your practice? Anything you notice while it's fresh? Anything about the instructions that were offered? Pointers? Questions, concerns, descriptions? We use the raised hand function found in the reactions category. And Mary, thank you for co-hosting. Mary will help curate this. I think I'm going to start tonight, even though I'm really happy you raised your hand, Misha, but I'm going to start with Elizabeth because I haven't heard from her lately, at least for the last few weeks. Hi, Elizabeth. I think you have to, Elizabeth, you have to unmute your computer.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
Great. Yes, I can.
Okay. My question is sort of something that's came up. This weekend I went camping and so I'm being emotional right now about it, but there was a family there, homeless, and there was a baby. There's a 1 and a 2-year-old baby, and I've been like shaken up ever since I saw it. And just seeing like a baby living out in a tent. So I guess ways to deal with like seeing so much suffering.
Could you say more? I'm not.
Yeah, sorry.
So what happened?
So I was camping and kind of throughout the morning, I kept hearing a baby crying. So I just went over to the campsite and I just said, can I help? Can I hold the baby? And I held the baby and I got to know the family a little bit and learned that they're just homeless. They're living there at the campsite in tents.
I see. Yeah.
I've just been really sad about it.
Naturally, it's heartbreaking. And this is not to take anything away from the heartbreak. It's funny, this really leads into some of what I wanted to talk about tonight. People in really dire circumstances can still, depending on their attitude, and you, with what you see, depending on our attitude, can be well. I today, and this may not feel as survival level, but somebody that I was speaking to has been experiencing a loss of vision and of blurring and all this medical stuff. and getting and fighting with insurance companies and getting nowhere. And
Mhm.
and yet this person had unbelievable equanimity. And even when they were talking to me, when they just not based on any prompt from me, they just said when they're just simply hate to overuse this, but when they're simply aware, there's love, there's joy, and yet none of what's going on has been resolved. And so I think it's really important for all of us to not assume what something means exactly, not assume that it's I to me it's heartbreaking, just like you. I resonate with that. But while you or me, while we may be recreating heartbreak in our mind, they're going about their life and their business.
Yeah.
And so we try with our attention to stay open. And of course, in this case, open to your heartbreak as well, but also the capacity, the unbelievable resilience that people have, an unbelievable capacity for joy, even in the midst of such difficulties. Did you get their vital info? Did you share numbers or anything like that
Yeah,
with them?
yeah. I'm texting with mom, but I offered to help her find housing, and she doesn't seem interested. So I'm still
Huh?
trying to keep that connection.
Nice. Well, thanks for bringing it to our circle and to remind us that, the comforts of our homes with our computers, that there are lots of people unhoused right now, and we want to let it touch us, but not dwell on it either.
Mhm.
Thank you. And I might circle around to this again later, but nice to see you, Elizabeth.
Nice to see you. Thanks.
Misha, please.
Thank you, Howie, and thanks for taking the other question first. And I also just want to thank you for your generosity of showing up still over and over again and offering meditation and Dharma talks and Q&A. It's really helping me a lot. So I've noticed in this thing I'm doing that I'm calling paperwork practice, which is for me is basically applied spirituality of dealing with the nitty gritty details of life, particularly the parts that are challenging for me, that have tended to be triggering anxiety and overwhelm over the years. So I kept putting them off even more. Anyway, so what I found was when I first started doing it, I set up a structure and went really well. And then from there on out, I started kind of like down a slippery slope. And it's like, well, I can work 5 minutes longer. Oh, I don't need to take as much of a break. I don't need to do my 5 minutes of sitting beforehand, and so on and so forth. Or, oh, I won't just stick to my 3 hours 3 days a week and 9 hours. This week, it's okay if I do 12 or add this other day. So essentially, what ended up happening is I got increasingly tangled up, and it became, the little thing of snow that became an increasing snowball into an avalanche. And finally, it just got so much that I was like, so tangled up. It was like, wait a second. And I was able to start stepping back and moving out of it, untangling it. And so I guess one of the things is that it's like, boy, it sure seemed like a tar baby. I don't know if you know that child story. You know, it's like I started to engage with those old patterns, and then the more I was doing it, the more stuck I got, and
Okay,
until
that was the
finally,
past. That was the past, and you're starting over again.
right.
Fresh. Every moment is a new beginning. Remember the instructions. It's no different for your project as it is for during the middle of a sitting. If you see that you're getting stuck or snowballing, that's the moment. The part of you, the knowing mind is not stuck. So that's the moment where you just drop it. Here I am. I'm not defined by it. This awareness is untouched by whatever's happened so far. I'm returning to the natural state, and it's independent of circumstances. And that's, here I am aware again. And then just let every time you realize that you're tight be the reminder as my wife says, let it be the barometer that says, let go, empty, open. And then just feel what that's like. What's that?
Let the tightness be the barometer.
Yeah, let the whatever that story, whatever that feeling is, let it be the reminder of what is completely unbound and free. Be free. So the beautiful thing about the Dharma is you can every hindrance is a manure can be the reminder of your love of being open. So you put it to good use. And begin again. And
Sure did that. I mean, it was
just appreciate that you noticed. Appreciate that you had the insight that you tend to snowball and tend to get re-triggered with associations. And then just keep appreciating that, cutting through, being aware. Begin again. No more.
Thank you.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Thank you. Jim, last but not least.
Thank you, Howie. Thanks,
Pleasure.
everyone. Yeah, mine, there is a question, but mostly it's I want to just kind of share and attest to something you said last week that, if I got it right, was meditate. The art of meditation is the art of being with whatever arises or with whatever is present. I think that's what you said last week. The art of meditation is the art of being with, and for me,
making space for what's present. Yeah. The art of meditation is the art of space for what's present. Yeah.
Say it again.
The art of meditation. The art of making space for whatever is present.
That's what it was. Yeah, exactly. Making space. Exactly. That's important too, that space part, for what I want to say. So some 2 years ago, and I'm somewhat embarrassed to even admit this, but I had a surgery on my nose because I was having some difficulty accepting the constriction around breathing in my nose. And I'd gotten beat up in high school and stuff, had a broken nose, I had a deviated septum and all this. And so the result, though, of the surgery, and I knew there was high risk, but there's nerve damage now in my face. And so I have 100% of the time activity going on in my nose and in my mouth and in my lips and in my gums and in my teeth. It's like a neuropathy, but it's not, I wouldn't call it painful, but very active. And I can easily, I can distract myself. There's no, like, I can distract myself from it by like right now, if I'm talking to you, I don't notice it. But as soon as I sit, that's what I notice. That's just what's the most obvious thing, right? So this coincided, it was just a couple months before the start of the COVID pandemic and the shutdown and stuff. And I had made a commitment to meditate 2 hours a day. That was like what I decided to do. And I've done that almost with very few exceptions since. And so my practice has very much been the art of making space for this goddamn thing, right? And so my
Well, it
meditation
sounds
is
like
shifted.
you've been making space for some strong aversion too, but not necessarily noticing the aversion.
Well, that one, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, my aversion is probably still hovering in the 3, 4 range. Probably sometimes it might go to 2, never goes to 0, because I assume at 0, then it goes away, right? I'm waiting for absorption to do that. I figure that's the only way it's going to go away. But I can get the 1, I think. And a lot of times, 2 or 3, but I don't think about it too much anymore. And here's the point one of the points I kind of want to make is this has been like going to the gym and working with some really heavy weights.
Yeah.
But as a result, I can see it. I am so much more stronger, let's say, in a mental way. And I can sit, like I love in the Patanjali, I don't know if you're familiar with Patanjali Yoga Sutras. He talks, one of the sutras is we can dwell in our natural state or our natural something, or we can kind of connect with an object.
Yeah.
The object is very hard for me because this thing says, no, you need to pay attention to me. If you're going to pay attention to anything, it's this. So instead, I just sit in awareness. And this is what I've been doing for the last 2 years. And it has been life-changing, almost life-changing. Like the amount of compassion I have, the amount of patience I have. I'm here because my mother's in hospital again, and I'm just able to be with her like I've never been able to be with her, love her like I've never been able to love her. And I really just think it's the practice. It's going to this mindfulness gym or whatever you want to call it, and being with something tough has had some amazing benefits, amazing side effects. So now, having said all that, if you know of anything that maybe I could do also to keep on this path, because I'm kind of thinking, making it up as I go, but
No, just keep doing what you're doing. If whatever you're experiencing is compelling, the whole point of meditation, or one of the points of meditation, is to have your real-time experience of being aware or whatever you're aware of, having it be so compelling that your mind stops wanting to be somewhere else. And then
I love
there's
that. That's
more,
such a
more contentment. So you keep doing it. On the other hand, really look to see whether you're resting in awareness to get away from those physical sensations, or whether you can just include those as inseparable from that awareness.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I must admit, I am
it's called bypassing, and there's still tension being built. It's still what you like against what you don't like, and that's what the Zen patriarch said was the disease of the mind.
Okay, so that's a very good point. So it does sort of feel like a lot of the times I'm just trying to find a mental state where I can hold it without it, overwhelming me or being too uncomfortable. I'm looking for a comfortable spot where I can hold it because it never goes away, but I can find,
So
you know what I mean? Kind of
two different things. One is to study it moment to moment, see how it behaves, because you can't be studying it and be suffering about it in the same moment. So just attention. So that's one thing. And the other is to just incline toward total acceptance.
Hmm.
Total acceptance, and let the sense of being aware be synonymous with total acceptance of whatever visits, including those sensations. That that awareness, those sensations are not apart from awareness.
Yeah.
Just another, it's just part of the mindscape. Anyway, we have to carry on, but I really appreciate you practicing so diligently, and I'm sure there's so many benefits to you, the people around you, from dwelling in more peace. But
Thank you,
we
Howie.
don't want it to be a subtle bypass.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mary, it's your turn for a little mindfulness break.
So, thank you. So again, if you haven't already marked your calendars for for Saturday, April 30th, Howie will be doing a half day. Next week we should have the title and a description, and then also an ability to purchase tickets. So meantime, it's just sort of a mark your calendar. And a word about Donna. And I was almost going to pass the Donna baton over to Misha, who was doing such a beautiful job of just sort of from the heart expressing her appreciation and recognizing that we're very fortunate. We have access to these to Howie, to other teachers, to these teachings, and it's all freely offered. And Mission Dharma relies on the support of the Sangha. We don't have a for-profit arm, that we don't have grants. We rely on the Sangha to support our teachers and the organization. So just a reminder, really just to touch in and just think about the goodness of Dana, what it means to you, to your practice, to others. And hopefully when we touch into that, then naturally there'll be a wish to offer. So I will put the information in the chat box. Thank you so much in advance, and I will pass it back to Howie.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you all of you in advance for any support. Be good to take just a 2-minute pause, just to let whatever has happened before just go into quiescence, into quiet, and prepare ourselves for the rest of the evening. And you may want to use that space for using the restroom if you need to, but just a couple minutes. And we will continue. I will mute for a moment, and then we'll resume at 15 minutes after the hour. just to let you know that I'm not able to look at the chats during the evening. So if you chatted to me, I'm not able to get it. Maybe Mary will pass on something later in case there was something in the chat. Can all of you hear that beeping? Is that someone's computer? Is that?
No, I think you're the only one who's not muted, so, and we can't hear it.
It's funny, I have the computer on Do Not Disturb and I'm still getting those sounds. So sorry about that.
Yeah, is it something that kind of goes like, "Ding"?
Yes.
Yeah, it might be a Zoom artifact. I think I've heard it in other places, but I'm not sure why it happens.
Anyway, thank you, Misha. So Elizabeth reminded me of when she talked about her heartbreak in in meeting the family that was unhoused at the campground. And I was reflecting on just all the different heartbreaks there are in this world right now. You can turn everywhere you turn, if you attune to the news, and maybe within your own family and your own life, there are just many things. If you're human, there are many things that'll break your heart. Many things that will leave the feeling of our small sense of self helpless, reactive, heartbroken, overwhelmed. Yet to be really open, that means to be heartbroken. Our hearts are meant to break. So it's inevitable. And in some ways, that's good news. It means you're not just cut off from the flow of life. You're actually very intimate with the way it is. That is the way it is, that there are things that are heartbreaking. Having said that, part of being open, part of opening our heart is being attuned to when it is that we need to not close our hearts, not hide away. In fact, not tune out, but tune in to that interior, that internal seclusion, that peace and ease that is the peace and ease of our nature. That on one hand, it looks like closing out, closing off, and you can call it whatever you like. But sometimes we need to withdraw our attention from the objects of the senses and just tune in to the sense of being aware, be secluded in that sense of being aware. Just as I described that person today who was dealing with so many challenges, medical challenges, it was a kind of retreat to simply being aware, not really to get away from what was going on, but just tune in to something that is available to us, even with heartbreak and a world that is unresolved. There's peace there. And there is a balm, there's a salve. So we can talk about it as sometimes, it's important to be open, but sometimes you have to close off a little bit. But what I mean by closing off is not checking out. It's really tuning in to a sense of even in the midst of a crowd, a sense of being secluded in awareness, secluded in being aware, not so much aware of something, but more awareness itself, and just letting the balm, the fragrance of contentment, of peace, of ease that is the natural fragrance of awareness. Let it soothe our aching hearts, our broken hearts. And that is not an escape. It's not a tuning out, it's a tuning in. It's an inclusion of the equanimity, balance element that we can recover, so that we're not just completely overtaken by our heartbreak, overtaken by the difficulties that present themselves in our lives. And it's not cheating to just tune in. To tune in to being aware, it means to experience the present moment, which is what you experience when you're aware, not filtered through I, me, mine, what it means about me, self, and other. It's just the seclusion of things just as they are. Nothing extra. There is within that experience a capacity to be free. I actually looked for it and found the elaborated version of a passage that I've shared many times on Tuesday nights. It's the punchline is, in the midst of winter, I realized that there was within me an invincible summer. That's Albert Camus. I looked up the longer passage, and here's what he said. My dear, in the midst of hate, I found there was within me an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was within me an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, I found there was within me an invincible calm. I realized through it all that in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. And that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better pushing right back. So we don't need to be victims to the incessant waves, the sankharas, the conditions that keep in a sense, they keep relentlessly coming with one form of dukkha meaning stress, suffering, things that are hard to bear. That we don't need to be a victim to the relentlessness of dukkha, that even in the middle of it, we can know sukha, we can know joy, we can know happiness. It is our birthright. The Dalai Lama, it's often quoted, the purpose of our life is to be happy. It's joy. And I read last week from Mary Oliver, she said, if you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give in to it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back. that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. Could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. And so this simple retreat is retreat into love, this retreat into Buddha nature, into consciousness, into freedom. But it's really not going away. It's not hiding away. It's just turning the other way. Instead of out, it's turning back toward what it is that's noticing, what it is that's hearing, seeing, smelling, what it is that is aware of heartbreak. What is aware of heartbreak is not heartbroken. So whatever it is, don't be afraid of it. It's plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. Thanks for allowing me to read a poem 2 weeks in a row. So if we're not able to, if that's all too vague to just retreat into awareness, just being simply aware, we can at least incline toward, cultivate an open attitude, a resilient attitude, incline toward being able to accommodate whatever it is that's going on. I was reading from Albert Einstein today. He said the greatest freedom is to choose one's attitude regardless of the experience. That the heart of the Buddha Dharma is that it's never really about what it is that's happening. It is the way that we relate to it. It's the way, our attitude about it, the way we react or respond to the conditions that we find ourselves in. And I've relied over many years on the teachings of Marcus Garvey, the founder of the Black African movement. And these words of Marcus Garvey were the inspiration behind Bob Marley's song, redemption song. But these are the words of Marcus Garvey. We are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. Because whilst others might free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind. Mind is your only sovereign. The person who is not able to develop and use their mind is bound to be the slave of the other person who uses their mind. And so one way to incline our mind toward openness, toward balance, toward non-contentiousness is to intentionally, as a famous teacher named Patrul Rinpoche said, don't prolong the past. Don't invite the future. Don't alter your innate wakefulness. Don't fear what arises. Don't fear appearances. Apart from that, there's not a damn thing. That's Patrul Rinpoche. Don't prolong the past. Don't invite the future. Don't alter your innate wakefulness. Don't fear appearances. Apart from that, there's not a damn thing. So all this is saying, work with your mind, work with your attitude. Notice, as my wife says, notice when your mind is inclining toward your what she called her puny ego worries, puny ego problems. And as I said earlier, notice that, drop it, drop back into awareness. Retreat. Notice when your mind is making conclusions about what something means. Stay with, as one of my friends calls, the raw data of what's actually happening. Notice when your mind is projecting what something means and what it will mean about myself and about my future. Notice this is futurizing. Bring the attitude is that I'm not going to prolong the past. I'm not going to invite the future. I'm not going to alter what's right here. I'm not going to fear appearances. I don't need to do anything more or undo anything. Whereas the Zen tradition, the vow, I vow to choose what is here. Maybe we should all put that on our refrigerators. I vow to choose what's here. This so goes against the stream of the identity which wants to chew on something, that wants to make something happen, that is future focused. It doesn't mean that we don't take care of this world and this body, tend to our minds. But we have to remember that to be as we are, not just do, to be as we are, and as much as possible, not stray away from ourselves. And I had some other readings about, which I can't find now, about wise attitude. But I'll just share a poem instead from Steve Taylor, just to emphasize the point of staying where we are. It's called The Only Place. When the future is full of dread and the past is full of regret, where can we take refuge except the present? When maelstroms of tormenting thoughts push back the barricades of your sanity, the present is the calm center where you can rest. And slowly, as you rest here, the niggling thoughts and fears dissolve, like shadows shrinking under the midday sun, until you don't need refuge anymore. The present is the only place where there is no thought-created pain. Present is the only place. Let's just hover there for a moment. This only place minus the word. So even the word present, we want to just let that fade into the openness of our practice. And just retreat out of the tangle of our fear thinking. Live in silence. Whether it's love, whether it's clarity, whether it's compassion. This is the only place. May all beings know when to retreat. May all beings keep a wise attitude. May we all emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. May all beings be liberated.